welcome everybody to the Story Club, and today is a very special day. We're going to be reviewing a very interesting book that is called MAUS by Art Spiegelman. So keep in touch. So today we have a special friend David, and we're going to be talking about this MAUS comic book, and of course a little bit about Art Spiegelman. How are you doing, David?
Hey, good morning. Thank you everyone for inviting me here. So yes, I'm following Art Spiegelman because I'm the fan number one of his work, and I love everything he writes and he draws. I've been following Art since he's been working with the New Yorker and the New York Times, also with the Garbage Pail Kids. I love those cards.
And yeah, I remember these from my childhood. I used to collect these garbage pail kids, what do you call them, stickers, and they were really gross, but they had like this interesting social background. And because Art Spiegelman is an American cartoonist, and he is like very well known because of his like simplicity in his works.
Yeah, right. Yeah. In there we can find characters, very famous characters like Donald Trump, of course, the presidents. You can find sportsmanship, everything you can imagine in the Garbage Pail.
Okay, so Art Spiegelman was born on February 15 in 1948, and he started being a cartoonist. He started like doing cartoons since a very young age, since he was 12, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, 12 years old. It was his friend's fault because he brings some comics and then he just fell down in the world of the comics.
Right. So now we're gonna go deeper into what MAUS means to this underground comic-like style. We know that Art Spiegelman won this really special prize in 1992, the day I was born, which is the Pulitzer Prize. But he also like gained his place in the comic like community because of his MAUS work. Why do you think this is so important? Why do you think MAUS is so important for the comic?
Well, I think that Art led the comic strip to a whole another level because, well, basically he obtained a different audience from just the kids and teenagers. He gained much recognition between the old people, the adults, of course, because the topic itself that MAUS talks about was like a serious topic. It was not at all just fiction, and that's one of the main reasons because he, as an autobiography, he takes he stays really loyal to the facts that it was no longer fiction, so it became an autobiographical comic strip.
Alright, so we have our students, our literature students. Hello Natali, hello
Hi.
Karen.
Hello.
And we're going to be discussing a bit more about MAUS, a bit of the plot, the characters, the themes, and some of the symbols. So Karen, what can you tell us about the plot? How's the story developed?
Okay, so MAUS plot centers on Blat's story when he starts to tell his story to his son Art about the horrors of the Holocaust that they live in Poland before, during the World War II.
Okay, so as Karen was saying, like with the whole story, how it begins and how it will end it up, we need to take into account which are like the main adjectives from the characters in order to understand the story.
Yes.
So let's start with Art Spiegelman. As first known, we can say that he's not actually like a character, but in the story he is like trying to look for something. The fact that he asks let's say his dad about the Holocaust, he's actually looking for an identity, like a voice. Why? Because he wasn't there, he wasn't part of the war. So he's always living in the shadow of the Holocaust, of the fact that their parents survived from that horrible time, And there's like an interesting fact on it, which is that he had a brother, but he never met him, so he's always in the back of it. So that's like Art in this case. We continue. What's the other character that you guys think is very important?
I think Anja.
Anja is very important too. Why? In this case, Anja is Art's mother, but unfortunately she's not actually part of the MAUS story because she's not alive. In this case, she died like 3 or 4 years before the story was like telling by Vladek, which is Art's dad. She was a very wealthy woman back then. She's very skillful with languages. She was very skillful when it comes to talking English, in Polish, in German. So that helped her, and that helped them back then when it comes to talk to the other people who tried to move on in the Holocaust. Anja for Vladek was the perfect wife. She was everything for him. And on the other hand, for Art was like that needed mother. She was really emotional. And Art could see that she will never give up on meeting Richu, of having Richu back.
That's really interesting. What about Vladek? Vladek, right?
Vladek,
Yeah,
yes. Well, what do you think about Vladek?
Well, we can't forget Vladek because actually Art is talking about that experience through Vladek's eyes.
Sure.
So basically, it could be easily the most important character in MAUS.
He is. He's the most important.
Yeah, and it's something very interesting that, you know, when you're reading just a regular book, and sometimes you can see, like, you can perceive the narrator's perspective, and also like how the story develops. And then in this comic strip, we see that right away, and we see it very graphical. And when we see the two different scenes, when we see like the interview, let's say, between Vladek and his son Artie, and when it goes into what happened into the Holocaust.
Yeah.
So it's very easy for the readers like to identify when the narrator is talking.
And now that you said that, it's like a very good way to understand the Vladek from the past and the Vladek from the nowadays.
Yeah.
Why? Because the Vladek from the past was a young man, like good looking, very resourceful, and we could see that he passed to be from like a really successful businessman to go to be like a trader in the black market back then in the Holocaust in order to survive. So he was very young over there, charming, and now we compare him with the Vladek nowadays, like referring to the graphic story, of course. And we can see that he's an old man, full of weird habits. If he's sick, he's very fragile, and he's always depending, in this case, of Mala and on Art. He's actually always looking for his company, no matter what it comes. If he needs to remember the Holocaust, the only thing he wants is that Art will be there with him. So it's very interesting. And now that I talked about Mala, well, in this case, Mala, she was a survivor too from the Holocaust. They met back then in Poland, and in this case, Vladek remarried with Mala. She's a really good woman, but she's trying to look for something else from Vladek's fortune, let's say, in a really implicit way at the beginning, but then she actually remarks on it.
Yes.
Yeah, do you think that too?
Yes.
She's a really good woman for being there, but she's looking for something else, and Vladek knows that. Art wants to be a side of it, but it's not that like easy. And finally, Richu. We talked about Richu before. He was back then in the Holocaust. He was like a baby. It was like around 5, 6.
Yes.
When that happened, and they sent him to another place because they thought that it would be like safe, but he couldn't make it. He couldn't make it because he was poisoned by his aunt, because she didn't want the cats, Germans, to get them. So she decided to poison them.
I think when I was reading the comic, I think this was one of the most like shocking scenes for me in the whole story when the aunt just had to poison the kids.
That's such a hard decision. Like what she will be thinking over there. Like it isn't something easy because we were not part of it. But now that it's telling it in this way, it's really hard.
Okay, now to wrap this up, we're gonna talk about a little bit about the themes. Something very important. I would say the main theme is power. MAUS portrays like the power that the Nazis thought they had during this time, and how it is reflected in the way Art drew the comic, because he like represents the Jews, which were persecuted, of course, by the Nazis, and they were represented as mice. And then the Poles, they were represented as pigs, and the cats were the Nazis. So this is a very important thing here. And of course racism and also family. We through the whole story we see like how family issues, they were never resolved, and it is reflected now in the way like Vladek treats his son and treats his second wife.
Yeah, you're right.
Okay, I would say that more than a theme, the fact that Art uses cats and of course mouse and pigs, it will be like an important symbol of the story, because you know that mouse have like a bad connotation in the real world.
Yeah.
These animals are just treated like a plant, right? And that's what Jews are for the Nazis, of course. In the beginning of the story, you can see this little quote that says of Adolf Hitler, right? That says that Jews are certainly a race, but they are not human. So they're always treated like a lower, non-human race, and of course cats are seen like predators all the time, following the Jews,
Chasing them.
pursuing, right? The other really important symbol is language. It's like a weapon for, in this case, the Jews, as you said. This girl was really skillful when it comes to language. He could speak Polish, English, French,
And German.
and German, of course.
As Vladek too, they were like really linked together for that.
Yeah, of course, and of course the most important topic to talk about is the Holocaust through the perception of a Jew that was really weird. No one has talked about the Holocaust being a Jew, right? We always hear in the news the perception of the journalists, people outside the problem, and of course of the Nazis, but never from the perspective of a Jew.
Yeah, and that's something very interesting you said, because we all have a picture of what the Holocaust meant. But it's been through mainly movies and what we see in the news, but not really through books. It's like very difficult to find a book. But I would say that this is one of the first main achievements of art.
Yeah, and it makes us feel really intimate with the characters itself. So it makes us feel trapped in a farm, in a unknown house, in whatever place they talk about. So I think that those are the most important things to wrap up the story of MAUS.
Good.
So thank you very much and see you next time.
Bye.
Okay,
Bye.
see you.